Hi, Bitcoiners. Mark Berger, your Bitcoin consultant here, giving you an update at Bitcoin block height 935,021. In Gregorian calendar, we are February 4th, 2026 at 1:10 p.m. Eastern Time here in South Florida. And we have reached a significant Bitcoin price level that I identified originally back on November 21st of 2025. The price right now, according to my feed, is 72,693. And this is pretty much the level that I identified that we would go down to 2.5 months ago. So this is a time to start looking at adding to your positions if you haven't already since that last update. The 70 to $72,000 level, I'll remind you, is the previous all-time highs from the 2021 bull market. And so this level should now act as some support, although it is not guaranteed that the price will hold this support level. However, I think it's a good bet to buy at this point. And this is not investment advice, but I will actually be making a purchase sometime today or in the next couple of days. However, this doesn't mean that the price has to go up from here. And in fact, I expect prices to languish somewhere around here, if not lower, until the end of March. So how low could prices go from here? Well, no one has a crystal ball, and I am not giving investment advice. However, I see around $60,000 as really the ultimate support level for the final capitulation. And that doesn't mean that even if price goes down into the low $60,000 that you or I will actually be able to get that price. So I mentioned that because back during the March 2020 COVID crash, the price of Bitcoin plunged from about 5,000 to $3,500 in about an hour and a half. So very few people are actually able to get the $3,500 price on that day in March 2020. And even if you were visibly watching the price at that time as it crashed, most likely you would not be filled at an exchange. Your order would not be filled. So it's very unlikely that if we get some sort of a final capitulation in price, a final boom, a final crash to reset everything, that you're necessarily going to be able to get the price. And that's why I'm making this video. I think now is a very good time if you have capital on the sidelines to reinforce or to enter a new position in Bitcoin. What I will be doing is I will actually be making my 2026 individual retirement account contribution sometime in the next few days. And depending upon your limits of how much you can contribute in the United States, that's anywhere from around 7,000 to $8,600 for the calendar year. And I'm doing it now early in the year rather than later in the year because I think the Bitcoin price will be much higher at the end of 2026. And I'm actually looking for a price of around $200,000 here. So don't sweat it if you don't get the exact bottom of this correction, if you don't actually get the absolute bottom, because what difference does it make if you buy at 75,000 or at 70,000 or even at 60,000, when in the grand scheme of things, if you do believe, as I do, that Bitcoin is one day going to be at $1 million, not anytime soon, but in 10 years, I believe Bitcoin will be at $1 million. What difference does it really make? At what price do you get it at right now? So I wanted to give you a heads up on that, a quick update, and then you're probably wondering, like, why has the price gone down? So price has pretty much been going sideways since I made my last update in November. It's been around the 83, $85,000, just been going sideways ever since mid-November. It really hasn't gone anywhere. It went up to maybe around 93. It went down to 78. It's kind of been bouncing around. And now last weekend, we had a little bit of a crash here down to the 75 level. And like I said, we're now at 72,000 according to the latest feed. So what's happening? I think there are a couple of drivers to this. And the first was the release of thousands, if not millions, of messages from the Jeffrey Epstein files, the convicted child sex trafficker who mysteriously died in prison in New York City. So in these files, a very prominent figure in the Bitcoin community, Adam Back, was mentioned and actually received communications from Jeffrey Epstein. This man, Adam Back, was actually mentioned in the Bitcoin white paper written by Satoshi as the inspiration for the proof of work model for Bitcoin. Adam had created something called Hashcash, which itself was a copy of another technology. But in any case, Satoshi quoted Adam Back and credited him with the idea for creating proof of work. And Adam has since gone on to found a company called Blockstream. And Blockstream has a number of businesses, one of which is they manufacture Bitcoin hardware wallets called the Jade. And Adam, because of he's been mentioned in the Bitcoin white paper, has been kind of known as an OG, as original gangster of Bitcoin, and has been given a very high place in people's opinion over the years, and for good reason. Not very many people are quoted in the Bitcoin white paper as an early cypherpunk. However, Adam really didn't understand Bitcoin early on. In fact, Satoshi emailed Adam, as Adam admitted, early in the days before the white paper was even published, and after the white paper was published, and Adam ignored him. Adam had a chance to buy Bitcoin in 2009. He had a chance to buy Bitcoin in 2010, 2011, and only in late 2012, when the price had hit a high of around $1,000, did finally Adam buy his first Bitcoin. So Adam is, there's always been something about Adam. And now we have these emails that have come out in the Satoshi, in the Jeffrey Epstein emails. And it turns out that Adam's company, Blockstream, took $500,000 from Jeffrey Epstein. Not only that, Adam was invited to go to Epstein Island, the exclusive island in the Bahamas where a number of crimes were reportedly committed. Numerous crimes, such as child trafficking, underage prostitution, where prominent figures like Bill Gates and Bill Clinton went. And we don't know exactly what went on there, but it's most people who've been paying attention know that it wasn't good. And it's been suspected that Jeffrey Epstein was running a blackmail ring out of this island. In other words, luring famous and influential people to the island to entrap them with underage girls to perform various sex acts on them, and then videotape or photograph these sex acts with these famous people, effectively getting leverage on them and blackmailing them. So this puts Adam Back, a very prominent Bitcoiner, into a very dark light, to put it lightly. And it goes even further because this relates. And so that's really why the primary reason, in my opinion, that the Bitcoin price crashed over the weekend. Epstein files come out, Adam Back is mentioned in there. And now people are saying, oh my gosh, Jeffrey Epstein helped fund Bitcoin. Well, that's not what happened at all. All Adam Back did was actually, that we know, is that he made an investment into, Jeffrey Epstein made an investment into Adam Back's company, Blockstream. That's all we really know. That's what it says in the documents, and that's public information. So there's a connection there with Jeffrey Epstein. So since Adam is a prominent Bitcoin contributor over the years as a core developer and co-founder of Blockstream, critics of Bitcoin are saying, "Oh, Bitcoin is the pedophile coin. They're calling it pedo coin. Get rid of your pedo coins." And all of these scammers who have been trying to sell other cryptocurrencies, altcoins. I call them shit coins because they're just riding on the coattails of Bitcoin's success. They really have no intrinsic value. They have nothing special about them. They're not decentralized. They're not scarce. They're really just scam coins trying to make you believe that they're like Bitcoin or the next Bitcoin or the better technology of Bitcoin. So all these other scam coiners are out there saying, "Say, see what we told you. You got to sell your pedo coin, meaning your Bitcoin. Sell your pedophile coin." So Adam has brought really really some shame to the Bitcoin community because of his actions of taking investment money from a known convicted sex criminal. And Jeffrey Epstein was convicted of, I think, sex trafficking or child trafficking many years before before the contribution that Epstein made to Adam's Blockstream company. So something's really bad there because whoever was doing due diligence for Adam and Blockstream completely missed that Jeffrey Epstein and his $500,000 it was coming from a convicted sex felon. Really, really bad stuff. The good news is that Atom is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is us. Bitcoin is us who hold Bitcoin. And particularly, Bitcoin is for us who run nodes. Nodes are the backbone of the Bitcoin network. We are the ones who enforce the rules of what Bitcoin is. We say what is a valid transaction and what is not a valid transaction. That is the purpose of a node, is to maintain the rules that we have agreed upon as a consensus in the Bitcoin community. Atom does not control node runners, and anyone can run a node to enforce the rules of Bitcoin as they see fit. And that's you, that's me, that's thousands of other people around the world. So that brings me to the next reason that I think that the price of Bitcoin has languished over these last 3 months. We're going through what I call the node wars, or what other people might call spam wars. And that is over the issue of putting non-monetary data into the Bitcoin blockchain. So for years now, for really 2 or 3 years, people have been putting things into the Bitcoin blockchain besides just monetary transactions. And when I mean a monetary transactions, it's just what it sounds like. It's I send Bitcoin to you. We have to put that data into a block and it gets stored on the blockchain forever. That's the transaction. Very simple. It's just a transaction. Someone sends Bitcoin to someone else and that goes into the block, and that's a monetary transaction. But over the last couple of years, some clever people have found a way to put other things on the Bitcoin blockchain besides monetary data. Things like JPEGs, things like GIFs. In other words, these are images. And a lot of these images are not so savory. Um, Borderline pornographic, certainly of poor taste in my opinion. But these people are saying, no, we're not putting spam on the blockchain. We're not degrading, Bitcoin by putting this extra data on there. We are putting art on the blockchain. And this is about as disingenuous as an argument as I've heard in a long time. This is spam. This is like someone spamming millions of people via email with a junk image on it saying, "Oh, I'm just spreading art. I'm spreading my art." Whenever you receive an unwanted email from somebody, that is by definition spam. And many of us node runners, in fact, thousands of us, don't want to be storing these images on the Bitcoin blockchain forever. And up until now, there was really nothing that we could do about it. Nothing that we could do about it. We could slow down its propagation a little bit through another implementation of the node software known as knots, but we couldn't stop these images from going into the blockchain and being stored on everyone's block for or node forever. We have to store this stuff forever. There's no way to eliminate data once it gets into a Bitcoin block. It's there forever, and we have to store it forever. That's sort of the rules of running a full node. So there's nothing we've been able to do about it. And in the last 3 years, spam has exploded. Now about 40% of the entire Bitcoin blockchain is filled with these spammy transactions of images and ordinals and NFTs and other junk that is not monetary in nature. They are outside of the original use case of Bitcoin as money. We haven't been able to stop this. Up until now, we now have a movement to stop these images, stop these non-monetary transactions from ever getting into our nodes. And this is a Bitcoin improvement proposal, currently numbered 110. And it proposes to eliminate all this extraneous data. And it's causing a lot of controversy in the community, in the Bitcoin community. People opposed to this Bitcoin improvement proposal to eliminate spam from blocks are saying this is an attack on Bitcoin. You're censoring transactions that people want to put into the blockchain. If they can pay for a transaction, they should be allowed to put whatever they want in the blocks. But of course, that's not the way it works. You're not allowed to do whatever you want to people's personal property. You're not allowed to go to a swimming pool, for instance, a public swimming pool, even for that matter, and you're not allowed to pollute into it. You can't do that. And the blockchain is a public resource. And not only that, when you run a full node, you are storing that data on your private property. When you run a node, it's on a computer. You had to buy that computer to set up that computer. You have to operate that computer, pay electricity for that computer, and then you have to store someone else's data, what they call art, and I call spam. You then have to store it on your personal property forever. To me, that's akin to vandalism. That's someone going up to your personal property, to your house or to your business, spray painting on the wall, and then you are stopping them. And well, the vandal might say, well, I'm just expressing myself. I bought the paint. I can put whatever I want on this wall. The problem is that wall is not their property. So when people put images on the blockchain that we don't want on there, that is vandalism. That is a violation of our personal property. So now thousands of us Bitcoiners are proposing to change the protocol rules to close these loopholes that have opened up over the last few years as a result of SegWit and the Taproot improvements from 2017 and 2020, late 2022. They've opened up these loopholes for people to put spam in there. We want to close these loopholes, close these hacks that allow spam to go on the blockchain. And we have been in the community have been fighting about this at conferences and on Twitter and on YouTube for the last 6 months at least, been vigorously debating this, and it's getting very heated. And of course, when there's division amongst Bitcoiners, that's not a good look for investors who only care about number go up for Bitcoin, right? That's not what investors want to see. That's not what potential new buyers of Bitcoin want to see. They don't want to see dissension in the ranks of Bitcoiners. So it's causing people who don't necessarily have strong conviction about what Bitcoin is to jump ship or to not buy at all. So if you have any doubts about what Bitcoin is, why Bitcoin is the most valuable asset in the world, why it's probably the most important invention since the internet itself, please call me. If you're a client, please call me, email me. If you're not a client, please set up a free call with me. Go to my website, bitcoinconsultant.us, schedule a free appointment, and we can talk about this for 30 minutes about why Bitcoin is really a revolution in the history of money and why it is our ticket out of the fiat money slavery system. It returns us to sound money. Anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because it's very easy for me to talk about the great benefits of Bitcoin. But basically, to recap, there's a proposal called BIP. It's a Bitcoin improvement proposal 110 that is seeking to change the rules, the fundamental consensus rules of Bitcoin about what is acceptable transactions in the Bitcoin network. And we want to eliminate the spammy transactions that really have nothing to do with transactions between me and you, or you and your brother, or you and a merchant. We don't want to eliminate those at all. And so we believe this is a huge improvement in Bitcoin, will solidify the use case as Bitcoin as money and not just arbitrary database storage for anyone who wants to store their data in there. No, we want to concretize what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is money, and it's money for everyone on the planet from now for hundreds of years, hopefully. So this is a very important step, but it's causing a lot of concern. Added with Add to that the controversy around the Epstein files revealing that Adam Back took money from Jeffrey Epstein and his company. It's creating a lot of angst in the market. And then not only that, in macro situations of the economy in general, people are very scared about the stock market. People are scared about interest rates, about a recession, poor employment, youth unemployment is very high now, AI, destroying jobs and all this. So there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt out there. But if you really understand what Bitcoin is and the promise of Bitcoin and why Bitcoin is valuable as opposed to gold, real estate, or any of these other crypto coins that really have no value at all, they're just scams looking to take your money, hoping that you don't understand the difference between crypto and Bitcoin. This is the important thing, is to understand why Bitcoin is a revolutionary return to sound money principles. Then you will have the conviction to buy Bitcoin and to hold Bitcoin. So I think that's a good enough rant. And we're down another $500 since I just started talking. And I have a feeling we're going lower here. And over the weekend, we'll probably test $70,000. I wouldn't be surprised. And we might even go lower. But also, remember why you're buying Bitcoin. Remember why you hold Bitcoin. And if you have any doubts at all, if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I've been in Bitcoin for a very long time. I have seen dips like this, which are always caused by fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which are always generated by government entities, by the banking interests, by the crypto industry itself, that are trying to make you scared about Bitcoin, trying to make you sell your Bitcoin, or to prevent you from ever buying Bitcoin in the first place. And right now, we're down maybe 40, 45% from all-time highs. In my experience, this isn't scary. I've lived through 70% downturns, 80% downturns from all-time highs, and I've seen it come back to new all-time highs every time. Now, this isn't a guarantee that it'll happen again, but I am I am pretty confident that we will see better days ahead for Bitcoin, probably starting around April in the springtime, and I think we'll see new all-time highs by the end of the year. So please reach out to me if you have any questions about the Epstein files and claims about Bitcoin being a pedo coin, about the spam wars, these node wars that are going on. And by the way, I think these node wars will be resolved pretty soon. Martin Armstrong has the date of around mid-March for a major turning point in Bitcoin in its history. And I think we're actually probably going to resolve these node wars by the middle of March. And that actually might be the catalyst for what drives price back up again. We will resolve this major issue, and everyone will then come to realize that the whole Adam Back fiasco is also taken care of when we deprecate, when we take away power from Adam Back and his Bitcoin core supporters who have been enabling spam on the blockchain. I think this will all get resolved in about 5 to 8 weeks' time. So hang in there, Bitcoiners. If you have any cash sitting around, if you want to make an IRA contribution for 2026, I think this is a great time to do it. So thank you, and God bless, and hodl tight. Bye now.